Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I want to talk to you guys about what I consider to be my auto-buy authors, or books, authors whose books I automatically buy or put on my TBR, or I will definitely get to more quickly than I would a new to me author or others that I don't enjoy their work as much. I guess this is also doubling up as a list of some of my favorite authors of all time, just because they're authors that I automatically want to read their work, whether I know what it's about or not. If I hear that they have a book that is coming out, I automatically want it. I put it on my Goodreads TBR for whatever year it's coming out in, and I don't even really need to read the synopsis. I just know that I want it. And these are contemporary authors. These are authors that are still writing. Obviously, I think I have acquired most of like Jane Austen's work, or works by people who are dead and no longer writing. I also have those that I want to collect their entire catalog, but these are works by people who are still writing, so they are still publishing, and as new books are slated to come out, I automatically put them on a mental list, or I write them down, or I put them somewhere that I know I'm going to remember to get their book as soon as it comes out, just because I have read enough of their work that I love it so much. Or I even have some that I've only read one of their works, and I know that they are on this list. So one such author is Kiss Quotient, who I've only read heavy by, and I don't actually physically own it. It is, like, I would say top 10 on books that when I have the money I'm definitely gonna buy them, because it was one of my favorite reads, my favorite nonfiction reads of last year, and I know for a fact that I want to read absolutely everything that they've ever written. And so that's an example of an author that I've only read one book of theirs, and I already know that they will always be an auto buy for me. So let's get into some of the other authors that I consider to be automatic buy authors. One is Clayton. I have here her Cuba saga books. So we have Next Year in Havana, When We Left Cuba, and The Last Train to Key West. I think the next one coming out is The Most Beautiful Girl in Cuba, I believe, and that comes out later this year, and that is already on my list of books that I'm automatically gonna buy as soon as they come out. I think she writes women beautifully. She writes them in a complex way, but that's still very readable. You can zip right through these. They're historical fiction, romance, and yeah, I just love them so much. I think she manages to, even though on the surface it looks like these are stories that may be about like rich women or beautiful women or whatever, she is able to really integrate some great social commentary, and doesn't glorify them to an extent that you sort of don't find fault in them, despite the fact that they might be beautiful or white passing, rich, whatever. Clayton is really able to bring them down to a place in which you know they're actually human, and holds them to a specific standard, and uses them as a tool by which she does a lot of social commentary. So I really appreciate these, and they're so entertaining as well. I also love Emily St. John Mendel. She has a very particular way of writing that I find to be very soft, and it's just lovely for me to read about. And so one of my favorite books of all time is Station 11. That's the first of hers that I read. Then I read Last Night in Montreal a year or two ago, about 2 years ago, and this is sort of a mystery about a guy whose girlfriend suddenly goes missing, and so there's very little known about her, and he sort of becomes a little bit obsessed with trying to figure out what happened with her, and I loved that as well. And even though it has all those mysterious elements, it still felt very soft, and like we're just slowly dipping into these stories, and I love it. I have The Glass Hotel. I have an arc here of The Glass Hotel, which is her latest release. It came out last year. I haven't been able to get to this one just yet, but I definitely will, and if I love it as much as I loved the other two, I will be buying a copy of this as well. For some nonfiction, one of my favorite authors of all time, and one that I buy everything of theirs, is Roxane Gay. The first that I read of hers was Bad Feminist, and it was really just revolutionary for me. It allowed me to view feminism in such a different light, and while holding myself accountable, also recognizing that I'm human and that that's okay, and that it is all a learning process, and that it is okay for you to be flawed, as long as you are cognizant of certain expectations that you have or that are had of you, and that it's okay to like things that you know are problematic, know why they are problematic. It allowed me to view feminism in a much more complex way, and in a more gray way than in just the pure black and white that I had probably been looking at it before. I have read An Untamed State by her, which is it's a novel set in Haiti about a woman who goes to visit her parents with her husband, and she's kidnapped, and so there's a lot of commentary about the socio-political goings on of Haiti, a lot of historical impact, and there's a lot of family dynamics, and I absolutely loved it. I think this is an underrated book of hers that we obviously hear a lot about, Bad Feminist and Hunger and everything else in nonfiction that she's written, but I absolutely adore An Untamed State. It is a difficult read, so keep that in mind, but I think it's the second book of hers that I read, and it made me fall even more in love with her. It made me realize that she can just really write whatever the fuck she wants. I have both of the first two books in this series. I have the Kiss Quotient. It's somewhere. I can't find it for the life of me. But Helen Huang is another author that is an auto buy for me. She is on the autism spectrum. She's an Asian author. So if you're looking to read more diversely, especially neurodiverse individuals, maybe give her a try, especially Appeal of Romance. They are a delight to read. And so yes, I have the Kiss Quotient and I have the Bride Test, and her third one in the series is coming out later this year, and it is already on my list of things that I'm definitely going to buy. For a mystery, Tana French has really become a favorite of mine in the past 2 years. I read In the Woods and fell in love with it, and every year I have read another one of this series, and they have been on my favorite fictions list. I read the third in the book. I read the third in the series this month, so I'll be talking about it in my January wrap up, and I absolutely loved it, as I did these two. I think she writes really amazing complex characters, great mysteries that are gripping and so engaging, and it's an atmospheric way of writing, and I absolutely love it. I love mysteries, one of my favorite genres, and I'm glad to have found a female author that is a contemporary female author that is still writing and writing series, and I can't wait to finish the series and then, or catch up. I'm not sure if she's still going to publish in it, but to catch up at least, and then read the standalones. My old English teacher absolutely adores her and has been begging me to read all of her things forever. One that if you have been following me for any length of time, you know that is a love of my life, and it is Carolina de Robertis. She is a queer Latinx author. So Carolina de Robertis is from Uruguay. A lot of her books are set in Argentina or Uruguay. Here we have Cantoras. This is an arc. I need to get a physical, a finished copy. And then The Gods of Tango, which is, I think, the second of hers that I read. I read Perla, which I don't believe I physically own, so I gotta get that. And then she has a book coming out later this year. I do have a video on upcoming Latinx releases, and her book is on there. She writes so beautiful. It is sweeping, and it grips you, and it's beautiful, and it's eloquent, and it's dreamlike, and she's just able to evoke these amazing scenes in your head, and I am blown away by her writing and her stories every single time. Cantoras is by far one of my favorite books of all time. It was my favorite read of 2019, yes, because 2019. It is one of my favorite reads of 2019, and she just writes amazing queer Latinx complex women filled stories. Read them all, I beg of you. for YA, we have Elizabeth Acevedo. She is an Afro-Latinx YA poet author that I love. I have here The Poet X, which is her first, and Fire on High, With the Fire on High, which is her second. I have read Clap When You Land, but I haven't been able to pick it up just yet, but I will. So again, I have that like list of 10 books that I've already read that I know I need to buy because they are by my favorite authors and I want to physically own all of them. And Clap When You Land is on that list. It was one of my favorite reads of 2020, and I just love her. I love the stories that she's able to come up with. I love how relatable they are. I love the commentary that she's able to weave in through her stories. I think she gets better with every book that she has written, and I can't wait to see what else she comes up with. I think she's amazing. And then we have 2 more, and they're both Latinx women authors because you guys know that's my jam. The first is, obviously I can't make a book like this. I mean, I can't make a video like this and not talk about Esmeralda Santiago, right? She is a Puerto Rican author, my favorite Puerto Rican author of life, and she's written my favorite nonfiction book of life, which is When I Was Puerto Rican. I actually have 2 copies of these. I have a signed copy, which is one of my most prized possessions, and so I have this is a memoir trilogy that she wrote, and the first is When I Was Puerto Rican, the second is Almost a Woman, and the third is Turkish Lover, which I have on my list to buy. Conquistadora is a novel that she wrote. I also have America's Dream, which is in my TBR cart, and I didn't grab it when I was prepping for this, but that is on my TBR. I haven't read that one just yet, but I will. And I love everything that she writes. I love how it feels like she's bringing home to me through her pages. I love how I have not been able to read anybody else who's able to capture in better ways that I can personally relate to what it feels like to be Puerto Rican and what it feels like to write about Puerto Rico and be from there and read about it. And I think no one's done it better that I have read again, and that I've been able to personally relate to than Esmeralda Santiago. Conquistadora is an amazingly complex novel that I had to sit with for so long after I finished it, because the main character is a Spanish conquistadora. It's a woman who is descendant of like original conquistadors of Puerto Rico, and I read it constantly asking myself, why is she writing from the perspective of a colonizer? Why her? But I got to the end, and all of a sudden all the pieces fit together, and it felt like she just had done something so amazing, and she just got it, and she got that spirit of really Puerto Rico, and how for many of us, I think for everybody that I've ever spoken to, we are Puerto Rican first and American second, and that is something that is so wholly grasped in this novel. And in the end, the island just kind of gets the last laugh, and we always have in history. Every time that people have tried, that nations have tried to take away, to strip Puerto Rico of its identity, of its language, of who it is as a people's, we have always persevered. And this is a novel that really encapsulates that through the lens of this conquistadora moving to Puerto Rico, despite how much love she says she has for Puerto Rico. I think I was in awe about it. But it took me a while to really understand everything that Esmeralda Santiago was trying to say through it, but it was amazing. Love it. Recommend it. And then last but definitely not least is Celia Moreno Garcia. She is a Mexican-Canadian author, I believe. I'm like 99% sure that's true, but none of these have an about the author. So I have 2. The first of hers that I read was, and to this day my favorite, has been Signal to Noise. It is a beautiful novel about these kids who are able to do magic through the use of music and albums, and it's amazing. And then I have 2 arcs here, Gods of Jade and Shadow and Untamed Shore, both of which came out, I believe, in 2019. 2020, early, yeah, they came out. Now this one came out in 2019, this one came out early 2020, and then I have Mexican Gothic here somewhere. Okay, I have Mexican Gothic as well. I have no idea where it is right now, but I read that last year as well, and I love everything that she writes. I always say about her that every book that I read by her feels like it's written by a completely different person. Every book feels completely different. Every book evokes a different emotion in you. They're all very sort of sensory filled. I love her stories. I feel like she has such a great imagination, much more than so many other authors that I write, that I feel like she can just write anything, and she just has this like endless list of stories in her mind, and they all pay tribute to her identity, and I just absolutely love everything that she has written, and I will continue to read her stuff. She has some older books that had gone out of print but are now being re-released because Mexican Gothic did so well. I think there were like YA ones, like the Beautiful Ones and something like that, which I have not been able to read yet, but I will get to those as soon as I can, as soon as they are re-released. But so far my favorite of hers has been Signal to Noise. It's the first that I read, and I wonder if it'll always be my favorite, just nostalgically. Is that a word? Speaking, just because it was the first of hers that I read. But yes, these are some of my auto-buy authors. These are most of my auto-buy authors. They are mostly women, as you can tell, because that's mostly what I read. But yeah, I love everything that I've read by all of these authors. I recommend everything that I have read by them. And yeah, let me know who some of your auto-buy authors are, if you share some of my own. And yeah, thank you for watching and for listening. I love you all very much.